Okay,
I'm ready.
running through the. We got checking the engine, the wings. We're about ready to take off,
I'm
and I
ready.
think we're live.
Does the captain say put on the seatbelts?
That's right. Okay, here we go. Well, what do
Here
we
we
got
are.
here?
I always get involved in that song and start dancing. I don't know. It's just me. It's kind
Yeah,
of snappy. Yeah.
I do the same thing. It just kind of takes over.
Yeah, you just like walking around, just da 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 da.
Mm.
All right. Well, we're ready to kick off another episode 13. Man, oh man, we got some pretty good stuff this week. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I think we do. Good
All right,
questions.
cool. Yeah, absolutely. We got some great questions and some great violations too. So I can't wait to hop into this one. All right, so we'll just kind of do a briefing of what we're going through, which we always love our favorite Trek violations.
Mm.
Yep, those are my favorite ones. All right, what's happening in real estate? So, kind of the news of what's going on. Agent tip of the week. I love that one too. And then, of course, ask questions. Oh, yeah, we got some doozies on this one. They got some really good questions this time. People are really starting to participate and ask some really good ones. Then, of course, we might have an agent spotlight. We might not. See how it ends. We might find one, right? We might find one. All right, Jeff, let's kick it off.
Go.
Boom. And we all
Gets
know
me
what
every
that sounds.
time.
Oh, I know. I always go like this. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe it was from the lead-based paint, but I don't know. I'm doing all right. All right. All right. So let's head on down to our first violation of the week. Here we go.
Okay, so this one, and I don't know how this happens, but it did. This agent continued to work for 9 months after her license expired.
Mm.
Ugh.
Seems to be a theme. It really does. We had that last week, didn't we? We had somebody that worked for like 6 months or 6 weeks or whatever it was, or
Yeah.
90 days or whatever it was. Yeah. And so the broker, they are responsible to make sure your license are active, right? And so basically, you get a 90-day notice to renew your license. And, I think a lot of it happens when people fail to get their CEs done in time. Because I deal with it a lot in class. People go running into a class. Oh, I need a class. I need a class. Well, when's your license expire? Tomorrow. And so, again, it happens quite a bit. So 9 months, that's a long time to be working without a license. So what happened with
Y-
her?
y- Yeah, that's a real long time. And of course, this is when, COVID hit. So this was between March 2020 all the way through
Mhm.
January 2021. And she received a penalty of $2,000 and required 30 hours of Principles 1 course.
Wow. Probably the section where it says Trek violations. That you got to have a license to do real estate. So I'm surprised that penalty wasn't higher. Again, that's another surprising deal. But 9 months without a license. And the sad part is, whose name was she writing the business in? Think about it. If you're unlicensed, you're writing business in the broker's name. Um, obviously, your broker could probably be caught up in this somehow, some way too, because if they're writing business, they're not licensed. Technically, that could go all kinds of different directions on that one. So $2,000 fine.
Yeah. So
Wow.
what if something happened? I mean, E&O doesn't cover that. You
Well,
know,
the interesting thing is, we can go on to let's think about this for a second because they're writing in the broker's name, so everything belongs to the broker anyway. But unfortunately, on the licensee side, let's think about that because they didn't have a license or authority to be able to write in the broker's name. And so if something was to happen, would E&O cover it? My guess would be no. And I don't know. And we've got a great question. What happened to the broker? It doesn't say anything that the broker was, that anything happened to that broker as well. So that's kind of interesting because I would think the broker would be on the hook for that as well.
Well, I guess, if if they're actually completing transactions, then absolutely the broker should be on the hook. But what's to stop anybody from writing under somebody's name? I mean, that might not be legit, right? So
Yeah, that's kind of fraud. What do you think? But I'm looking at it going, this person was for 9 months. Something had to have closed. So what did the broker do with the commission checks?
yeah,
So now you're paying an unlicensed person. So that's another situation. So that'd be interesting to find out if the broker was also charged with anything as well. But
yeah,
I don't think it's that in the complaint.
it did not.
Yeah.
It did
But
not.
still, $2,000 in a 30-hour principles class. I think that's pretty much just kind of slap on the wrist kind of thing. I think it'd be a lot more brutal than that. So,
Yeah.
wow, that seems to be a theme that's been going on. People practicing without a license.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Numero dos.
All right. What we got
So
here?
yeah. So and this is a little gotcha right here.
Yeah.
Negligent or
Mhm.
incompetent by failing to communicate updates in the building process with her client, and the respondent failed to maintain records of substantive communications with parties to the transaction for at least 4 years.
Ooh, wow. All right. So respondent acted negligently, which would basically mean what a reasonable person would do under that situation. Incompetently means they didn't have knowledge of what they were doing by failing to communicate updates in a building process. So what is that, like a new build? I think that'd be
New
like a
build.
new build, not communicating with the buyer what's going on. The interesting thing about that is when we're dealing with new build, new home contracts, we can't advise on the contract. That's what a lot of people don't understand. We can't advise on the contract, but we still have duties to keep them informed, right? Those are material facts. And so that's kind of interesting. And the interesting part about this, I was teaching this today in class, as a matter of fact. Substantive dialogue, that is actually part of your transaction records now. So, like emails, text messages, they all have to be kept for at least 4 years now. So that's interesting that they, again, if you get a complaint with Trek, it's not just one violation. If they go through everything, they can find another violation. And we're supposed to keep this communication for 4 years. I mean, that's a law, everybody. That's 535.2H is where you're going to find that. It's called record retention. And so that's nasty, not being able to keep your records. I look at it this way. It's easy to keep your records. It's easy to find your emails. It's easy to find, you know what I mean? So that should have been compiled. So there's something else that happened too. Issues in the personal relationship between agent and broker. So what does that mean?
Yeah, something went south between them, and apparently that's what initiated the complaint.
So
So
basically, the broker and the agent were having probably some differences on what should have been done or how it should have been done, obviously. And maybe the broker would have said, "Hey, we need that paperwork." The agent's going, "I don't know what you're talking about." So who knows, right? It could have been just any kind of battle royal, if you will. And so what happened with all this? So the respondent did not keep any records of communication or updates with their clients. And the penalty was $1,000 and 30 hours of agency law. You would think that would be a lot more.
yeah, well, I mean, it just goes to show you that it might be something completely different that sets it off or triggers this complaint,
Yeah.
and then they go back. Well, where are your communications? Oh, I don't have any. Boom. They're
Well,
gonna get you.
that communication's evidence too. when somebody makes a complaint doesn't actually mean that they're right. So, it's always good to have that communication just in case. I mean, that's just common sense in my mind, So, and then Trek also requires it too. So that's kind of a two-step deal. So, wow, I wonder what the personal differences were. I don't think I want to know. How about that? So it sounds like they had a disagreement on keeping paperwork. Let's put it that way. Well, that's not good.
Mm-mm.
All right, we got violation number 3. This one looks pretty rough.
We included this one because it does have kind of a reoccurring theme. The agent is basically offering a rebate of the commission to the buyer at time of closing, and they fail to do so.
So basically, they didn't follow through with what they were supposed to follow through. All right. So basically, so what if all communications were text? Well, that's a great question, Debbie, because communication is considered that substantive dialogue, right? So that's why you need to keep your text messages, and you also have to keep your emails. So that's a great question to ask, and that should be in your transactional files. And I get people ask me all the time, how do you keep your text messages? You can take a picture of it and send them to yourself. It's that easy. And they also have other programs like apps that we can use also that converts the text messages into emails too. So, keeping all that dialogue is the key to this thing. And we got to keep it down for at least 4 years. And we also now have to keep our CMAs for 4 years too. Remember we had that violation last week? So, and offers, just thought I'd throw that in there too. So any offer that you submit, even if it's not accepted, because if it was accepted, that'd be a contract, right? So any offers, either coming or going, you got to make sure that you keep for 4 years too. So I can see how people get caught up in that. All right, so violation. So basically, they were supposed to give a rebate, which is basically a fancy pants for refund, right? Well, here's one of the things that I think a lot of people fail to do. That's 535.148. That's basically the rebate rule. And one of the rebate rules is everybody has to have consent, right? That's number one. But I think a lot of times these buyers agents want to give rebates, but shouldn't they ask their lender too? I mean, because a lot of these
Yeah.
lending programs won't even allow a rebate. So you look at it and go, if you're going like a USDA loan or maybe FHA or VA or something, and it's a loan product that says, hey, we don't even allow them to get any money back. So that's the first problem that you have. But if they say they're going to get the rebate back, let's say it was a cash deal, right? And, even under that circumstance, they're still looking at these contracts like, how much of a rebate are you going to give these people? You know what I mean? Are they doing a cash out or what are we doing here? So, that could also be a RESPA violations too. So we got to be real careful with all this. So 30% of gross commission to the buyer and penalty is $750. 30% of gross commission. I wonder how much they earned.
Yeah.
That can be pretty pricey, right? So that could actually be, it's kind of like an informal settlement kind of thing. So, hey, man, let me give you back 30% and let's just call it good kind of thing. So, but I would think that'd be a higher penalty too, because failed the timely rebate. Well, at least they try to rebate them back. I guess that's what was
Yeah.
good on that. But on the flip side of it, and then all rebates have to show up on your CD too, right? Or else that could definitely be a RESPA problem. So, there could be a lot more problems than 30% gross commission and $750 penalty. That's for sure. So that seems pretty common though.
Yeah.
All
I think it's
right, we
more
got
common than we think. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like I tell people all the time, man. We're reading these violations all the time in class, and they go, "Oh, that never happens." Well, it never happens until it happens to you. You know what I mean? So when you're reading all these violations all the time, you'll be amazed at what happens. I promise you. All right, next one down. Violation number 4. What do we got here?
so this one, it's a little tangled web we weave kind of thing, but in a nutshell, the respondent, as a property manager for the property, acted negligently by failing to have tenants sign a pet agreement or provide proof of pet insurance as was required by the lease.
Wow. Okay. Well, it started off with this is kind of interesting. Respondent engaged in brokerage activity not through her sponsoring broker. So it sounds to me like she started off with she wanted to be a property manager but not use her broker. Huh, that doesn't sound good. And then it starts off with responded as property manager for the property acted negligently, which means what they should have done, right? By failing to have tenants sign a pet agreement. So if they have a pet, you obviously need to sign a pet agreement, right? So you want to make sure that that's included in your lease or proof of pet insurance. So I don't know about you, but if I was going to have an animal in that building, I would want to make sure that you give them the pet agreement because you got to know what kind of breed it is and so on. If it's current with shots, how about vet records? That's probably a pretty good question to ask too. And basically, proof of pet insurance. So that means that the property is insured, and that pet will be insured if something happens. That sounds to me like that could be a liability issue on the landlord too. So, as required by the lease, the respondent requested the tenant make deposit check payable to an unlicensed entity. Oh, here it comes again. Unlicensed. See, an unlicensed entity. So I'm assuming the fact that that agent probably started their own LLC or they started their own corporation or something, and they had them pay them directly and send it to the broker. And the penalty, the penalty was only $1,500 in a 30-hour property management class. I think that got off lucky. What do you think?
Yeah, they did. Yep.
I mean, in all reality, you practice without a license. I mean, it's an unlicensed entity that you're paying to. So you're implying the fact that you're a property manager, but you don't have a license. So, man, yeah, I always suggest to everybody, if you're going to do property management, you want to take a class because, I mean, a lot of violations come out of this little section right here. So, I mean, just something to be cautious of. And $1,500 fine, I think, is a pretty easy, really easy penalty. Let's put it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of easy to say, oh man, because there was a lot that went wrong in that contract. There was a lot that went wrong in the beginning, and that could be, she's also trying to convince somebody that she's the property manager, and she runs and she works for a property management company when her broker might not, or their broker might not even know that they're doing property management. Or even better yet, never done property management before. That's always fun. So, this could go all kinds of directions, but I wonder, I often wonder what happens to the brokers when this kind of stuff happens. You know what I mean? Do they give them fines? Do they reprimand them, or do they just do the agents?
Well, I guess that broker manual is the saving apples for the broker, right?
Yep, that's pretty much right too. So it probably says in the broker manual that property management wasn't required, and they went against it. So that saved them at that point. So yep, absolutely. Wow, these are some pretty. Some of these violations that we just read today are pretty practical. Real practical actually. So, wow.
Yeah. Hey, there's one thing I do want to add to the Trek violations. What we also see a lot of are the fact that if somebody gets a felony or some kind of niche or tick on their record, they don't notify, and when they go to renew, that's when they get hit. So
yeah, and Trek will find out. Because our fingerprints are on a file, and they rerun your background check every time you go to renew. So, if you think they're not going to find out, they will find out. So, yeah, we've seen a lot of those violations too. So, I had somebody the other day ask me about that. Since we're on that, do they check state and federal? Yes, it's not just state; it's state and federal. So. Man, that background picture is getting all kinds of crazy. Was it just me, or was it actually bigger, smaller, bigger, smaller?
I hit a button accidentally.
I was like, "What is going on with the back screen?" I was like, "Whoa!" I'm sitting here drinking a mineral water, going, "What's in this stuff?" That's awesome. That's awesome.
Oh boy. Well, we do
Okay.
have. Let me find my share browser. There we go. We got a sponsor, Handyman Plus, from big to small. Handyman does it all. Yep. Residential, commercial remodel, maintenance, and repair. So, good guy.
I gave his number out yesterday to an investor. So
Oh, really? Good.
yeah, I don't know if they called or not, but and I also gave a number out for some fencing work to be done too. So
Nice.
yeah, absolutely. And he does a good job, and you know, everybody that we've referred to him, they give him all fives, right? All 5 stars.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. It's a real good thing.
Yeah.
All right,
So
heading on.
what
Good.
what do we got next?
Well, it sounds to me like we're gonna have dun 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 dun. What do you think? Keeping you in suspense. Keeping you in suspense.
Oh, oh,
Oh, ask Steve. There it is.
there we go. Got some
All
good ones.
right. We got some good questions this week, actually. Really good questions. They come from all over the place. So, what's the first question that we got?
Number one, we have this one is coming in from Tanya, Louisville.
All right.
What is an estoppel certificate for commercial, and is there one for residential? Good question.
Ooh, whoa, that is a good question. All right, estoppel. Estoppel. This means stop or banned. And whenever you're dealing with tenants in a property, what would happen is, uh, let's say you go under contract to sell that property, and the current landlord, what we're going to do is we want to send an estoppel certificate to all the tenants, because what that means is any negative things on the property. So let's say, for instance, if they're behind in rent, if there is a claim on the property, that there's repairs that need to be done. And so these are kind of negative things that have to do with that property. And why we send the estoppel certificate is because the current landlord either needs to repair them or fix them prior to the transaction being closed, because estoppel means banned or block. So what that's going to do is block the tenant from making a claim on the new owner for anything that is currently wrong with the property. Now, do we have one for residential? Yes, we do. That's a great question. And we have a newer one out. It's newer, meaning in the last year and a half, 2 years. And if you go into your TXR forms, all you got to do is type in residential estoppel certificate. And so now we have one for residential and commercial, which is good. And I never knew why they didn't have one for residential, only for commercial. But they also came out with that residential addendum, that residential rental addendum, the 51-0. And if you do have a tenant in the property and you list that property, and there is a tenant, obviously has possession, you need to add that addendum. And on that addendum, 51-0 at the bottom, kind of towards middle to bottom, they do have some of the questions that are on your estoppel certificate too. So I think it was good that they added both as well. So, it kind of gives a better idea of, hey, yeah, we need to get this thing fixed because it can't go on to the current owner at that point in time. So that's, I believe. So yes, we do. We have one for commercial and residential. So the tenant sends, so the seller sends it to the tenants. The seller can, or the buyer can, either one, but the seller should have been, as a listing agent, we should have sent it off anyway. That should be our paperwork, and send it off to the tenants, get it all filled out. So if a potential buyer wants to buy the property, they have the right to look at that too, right? Because that's a disclosure item. So yeah, the seller should have done that.
So that's a real good to know if you're representing the buyer.
Oh yeah.
To know, to share your knowledge, whatever, to look out for your fiduciary for your buyer.
Absolutely. Full disclosure, right? And that's also good to put into, that's due diligence too. You don't want a tenant that's going to make a claim. You don't want a tenant that has offset rent. You don't want a tenant that has damage to their structure, and then once it changes hands, I'm responsible to fix it, kind of thing. So, that's actually good for due diligence time.
Yep. You getting a little stage fright, Steven? Check. 1, 2. Check. Well, while Steven thinks about it a little bit, I'm going to jump over. Before we go to any more questions, I'm going to jump over to Bidsy Bidsy Auctions. They've got a wonderful site here, Bidsy Auctions. It's bidsy.com. I'll put that in the communications here link while Steve considers coming back and enjoying the show together with us. But they've got good household deals and a bunch of products that you can bid on. Kid and baby, home decor, kitchen and appliances, seasonal, furniture, trending. Just a wealth of items that you can bid on, and they've got auctions all the time. And I believe there's a newsletter you can sign up here, subscribe, and you'll get updated on that. So, Bidsy. Oh, what did I do there? Steven, you are there. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
You're back.
I am back.
Okay,
Just a little
I
free.
just messed up our. There we go.
All right. All right. What are you talking about? The sponsor?
Yeah, I just jumped over to a little sponsor while you were taking a break. I know you had to run to the bathroom real quick.
I don't know what happened. I was like, hello, he gone. All right. So our next question, Jenny from Dallas. What you got here?
Can an LLC purchase a property, and how do I know who has authorization to sign for the LLC?
Ooh. All right. Now, a lot of times when you're dealing with investors, they're going to be LLCs. Let's kind of branch off this too, because if a buyer wants to buy a property in their LLC, sometimes banks don't allow you to purchase an LLC. Kind of like FHA won't allow it in an LLC. But if it's an investor, hard money will let you do it. You know what I mean? And some other loan programs also let you do it under an LLC as well. But let's say they're buying cash. Can the LLC buy the property? Absolutely, positively. They're a legal entity, and so. A lot of times when we're dealing with investors, we're going to deal with this an awful lot because, they start up LLCs and sometimes even corporations. So if it is an LLC, you want to check what is called the operation agreement. So, just because they say they're a vice president, that doesn't mean they have signing authority. So you want to make sure you're checking the operation agreement, and more than likely you'll find it in the back, a little pages from the back, it will say managing member. And they also say they have authority to sign on behalf of the LLC. So as long as they have the authority to do so under an LLC, it would most likely be the managing member. But, it could be anybody as long as they designate them through that operation agreement. And like I tell them all the time, make a copy of it, put it in your file. And then, of course, you can also send that off to the title company and make life a lot easier. So the answer to that is yes, but just make sure they have signing authority. Or else you didn't sign a contract.
Yeah, good question.
Oh, yeah, that is a good one. And it's becoming more and more popular, too. All right, we got Summer from Austin.
Yep.
Okay.
What is the difference between an easement and a right-of-way?
Oh, whoa, look at this. All right, an easement, the actual Latin term easement means easy movement. All right, so to have an easement, you have to have a purpose across the land, right? And so a lot of times an easement is in between a private individual and another private individual. So let's say, for instance, me and Jeff live next door. Sound good? Sorry, Jeff, you're my neighbor. All right, so I go over to Jeff and I said, hey, Jeff, you mind if I walk across your yard to get to the other side to, go to the park? And Jeff goes, yeah, go for it. What do you give me? He gave me an easement to walk across his land, right? Because I have a purpose and it's an easy movement. So it's a private individual to another private individual. And a lot of times the easements show up on your deeds, right? Easements are part of the deeds. You also see them in the actual surveys. All right, a right-of-way is basically a good way to remember it is anybody that has eminent domain authority. So eminent domain means superior lordship. And so under eminent domain, that's the Fifth Amendment of our Constitution, right? It's called the Taking Act. And who has eminent domain authority is railroads, utility companies, municipalities. So if they have eminent domain authority, they can fall under the right of way because what do they have the right to do? Take your land for public use as long as it has to do with the health and safety of the community. So that's a right of way is somebody that has eminent domain authority, and an easement is normally a private individual to another private individual. So
Now you missed one on the eminent domain, Jerry
yeah.
Jones, right?
No, yeah. Oh yeah, that was for the health and safety of the community. That actually was for the health and wealth of the community, and it was kind of ironic when that actually happened. How the laws changed. Do you remember that when the ballpark went in? You know, Jerry Jones went in there and took over everything, and then about a year later, the eminent domain rules changed. Oh, just missed it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but you can't go in there for the wealth of the community, or else every single solitary person that decides they want to build a skyscraper somewhere is going to stick it there. You know what I mean? Or a ballpark or whatever it is. So it has to be the health and safety of the community, not just wealth of the community. So that's a good question right there. And another thing I want to branch off this is Trek. They actually have a registration. It's called Subchapter K, where somebody can actually be registered with Trek, but all they can do is write easements and right of ways. They can't sell real estate. So I thought that was kind of interesting because they also regulate right of way agents.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So sometimes you'll run across somebody who goes, "Oh, I'm a right of way agent." Well, they're registered with Trek, and they now have to take continuing education, which is good. Right? I look at it this way: we got to take it. Shouldn't they take it too? You know what I mean? So, but they can't sell real estate; only the right of ways.
Okay.
All right, we got another one.
Lou from North Lake. North
Oh
Lake.
wow! All right, yeah, right around the
Are
corner.
garage openers something the seller is required to leave with the house?
Yes. All right, garage door openers are called controls. That actually falls under paragraph 2, right? Properties and accessories. So if you read the accessories is basically personal property that make the real property work, if you think about it, right? And so that's why they have drapes, curtains, rods, and they also have mailbox keys. If you ever read through that little section right there, it'll say mailbox keys. Then it says controls. Well, what's a control? Sounds like a garage door opener to me, right? And another thing too is if you have a garage door opener, for installed for your garage, how does that work without the opener, without the remote? So that's actually part of the real property. So yes, it is supposed to transfer with that property as well. So that's a good question, but we
Hey,
all know it always happens.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
I said we all know that doesn't always happen. So
We got a question, and we had a technical glitch here. The questions or the comments went out of order, but here's a question right here from Angie Chop.
oh, okay. I know this is completely off subject. Can an HOA legally limit the amount of rental homes in a neighborhood? Wow. They can actually. It depends on. I'll be honest with you. A lot of the HOAs are starting to crack down on rental units, and there's two reasons why. HOA, when it comes to Trek, HOAs are basically condos. Property owner associations have to do with homes in an association. And a lot of the HOAs, I'm going to say condos, they don't want to have more than a certain amount of renters because in their mind, I'm not saying it's true, I'm not saying it's not, but in their mind, the more renters, the less value, correct? And also to be able to be qualified to get loans in that condo association, like FHA guidelines say that you can't have more than 51% that are rentals, right? Or else FHA won't qualify it to give it a loan. So, can they regulate it? Yeah, they can regulate if there could be any rentals. I'm actually seeing a lot of HOAs say no rentals allowed, even temporary leases. The temporary rentals. They're saying none of that. And so, can they do it? Yeah, they can. Absolutely. And are they doing it? Yeah, they are. So, and so that's the challenge sometimes when you're buying into HOAs. That's why you got to read those CCNRs to make sure that you can do what you want with basically what you're purchasing.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yep.
And she's got another one.
Would powered blinds be considered controls? If it has a remote to it, powered blinds with the remote, is that what you're referring to? That would be a control. Yep. Same thing with ceiling fans. Ceiling fans with remotes. What would that be? That's a remote control, right? So that would have to stay as well. Yep, absolutely. Good questions.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
good
welcome, man.
questions.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Okay, we've got Nancy from Itasca. When
Hey,
when will my buyer be required to give additional earnest money?
well, let's start off with the earnest money question. Is earnest money required to make a contract? No. That's not actually legally required to make a contract. But you do have to give option money to have an option, right? Now, a lot of times, if you're going to ask for additional earnest money, what happens is the first initial earnest money, because to get additional, you got to give it first, right? And so the first part is 3 days upon after execution of the contract. But it also says Saturday, Sunday, and legal holidays don't count, right? So my answer to you is 3 days. All right, now additional earnest money is whatever is required under the contract. Because I've actually seen it to where it will say additional earnest money will be given 10 days after, option period. Or another thing is a lot of times additional earnest money can be used for sale of other property. Like say, hey, the additional $4,000 will be given upon acceptance of our contract. So the additional earnest money, if you are supposed to give it, there'll be a time frame to give it, and it should be given upon that day. If that makes sense, right? Because it doesn't say like within 3 days or anything. There's nothing spelled out. It says additional earnest money will be given within blank days. So they just have to give it within that day or within that time period. Yep. So
That's good.
I haven't really used additional earnest money very often. Have you? I haven't really. Nah, it's not as common, but can it be used? Of course it can be used. In fact, they on page 11 of our contract, it actually has an additional earnest money receipt. So is it being used? Yeah, it's being used, but they added that onto page 11 because a lot of times people would give the additional earnest money, they take it to the title company, like, what are we supposed to do with it? Well, it goes into your trust account. So that's why they actually added the additional earnest money in there as well. So that's a good question.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good question. We've got a little vendor moment.
All right.
Yep. Silvano Robosio Insurance. Big and small insurance programs. Progressive, MetLife, motorcycle, auto, commercial. Silvano Robosio Insurance does it all.
There you go.
Boom.
They'll insure anything.
That's right.
That's all. I keep trying. They also give, this might be a good thing too. They also give clue reports.
That's right. That's right. In
That is
fact,
that.
this fella right here, he's insured. Key man.
He is insured, actually. There he is right there. Hey, little buddy. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things for us is that clue report.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, get a clue report, get a clue report. And they're like, where do I get it? An insurance agent. That's where you get it. And then they say, well, the insurance agent is going to charge. Well, that company doesn't charge, right? Isn't it a free
That's right.
clue report? So, take advantage of it, give them a call and get one done for your buyer or your seller. I think that's a win-win situation right there. Then of course quoting too, you never know. Getting an insurance quote, you'll be amazed at what's going to happen, because this insurance is starting to go up. And I always tell people, revisit it because it's getting to the point where I'm hearing people pay $1,200-$1,500 more a year than what they used to pay. So, get it requoted, see what you can do to, hopefully get a better deal. So that's good.
Yeah.
And then bundle it.
Okay.
All right.
Now I don't I don't have the agent tip or the spotlight. I seem to have misplaced it. Do you have a copy?
I actually did. I actually do have an agent tip. Um,
Okay.
I'm gonna kind of give you a tip that I'm starting to do. I purchased this thing. I was gonna bring it over here, but it's a portable air compressor.
Oh.
it's actually kind of neat. And it's like I always tell people, be prepared for anything, especially us. We're farm and ranch, so we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And you can't really get anywhere very quick. Let's put it that way. And if something happens, you need to kind of fix things on the fly. And we have a little Ranger, we drive around in, and if it gets a flat tire, you're stuck out in the field somewhere. Nobody can actually come get you. And I actually purchased this. It's a portable air compressor. It's literally this big. I'm not kidding. It's absolutely amazing. It was $100, and it can compress tires up to 50 pounds.
Wow.
And I just tried it the other day. I was looking at it on the infomercial thing before I bought it. I'm like, I can't do that. They're making this stuff up. No, I'm not. It's remote. I mean, it is a rechargeable small air compressor. And I went out and I actually stuck it up to a tire. I drive a pretty big truck. I mean, if you know me, I drive a pretty big truck, and my tires go up to 35 pounds. I actually stuck that thing in, set it for 35 pounds, and I was down to 30. It went up to 35 pounds in 2 seconds.
Oh, wow.
That's how fast it inflated that tire. I was like, this is a dream. And then I went out to the Ranger that we have because it has one flat tire. So I went over there and I went, psh, it actually filled up that tire. I think it was like, I don't know, maybe 20 pounds of pressure or something. I mean, we're talking flat. I went out there, stuck it in there, put it up. It was actually completely full in 3 seconds. It makes absolutely no noise. It's amazing. Like, done. I was like, whoa, what was that all about? All right. So the cool thing about that is be prepared. So there's your agent tip of the week, right? And so I'm always carrying around these little things all the time just in case something happens, I don't want to run out of gas. I don't want a tire flat. I want to be able to get out of a situation. So, I thought that was a pretty cool little thing that I mean, hey, for $100, that could save you a world of headaches. Let's put it that way. So there's
now let's all knock on wood here for Debbie Lynn Niece McLean. It sounds like she's only got one flat tire in 18 years. So let's all knock on wood.
Yeah. That's a big knock on wood right there. I'll tell you what, I've had plenty of them, and I wish I would have had this little air compressor when I was out in the middle of nowhere. Trust me, but so I always say, agent tip. How about this? Always be prepared. You never know what's going to happen. Especially, another agent tip that I'm just going to kind of throw out at everybody. Not only be prepared for stuff that are going to happen, tell somebody where you're going. We were doing a self-defense class the other day, and I can't tell people how important it is to tell somebody where you're going. And probably the best tips is get Agent 3. Have you ever heard of Live 360?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good app. And, we go out and show properties all over the place. And Life 360, it keeps you safe. People know where you're at. And then, of course, you can have emergency tools if necessary. But I think the biggest thing is tell people where you are so they can send help if need be. So there's your agent tip of the week.
Yeah, and it goes for male and female agents. It's not just female agents. Because that one report, DFW, that agent, he was a male. He got beat up on.
Yeah, hey, 100%, man. You never know what's going to happen. So at least have somebody know where you're at. And that agent in that Live 360 tells you where you are, how fast you're driving, all kinds of stuff. It's a good thing, but it's good and bad. Let's put it that way. But I mean, it can be a lifesaver, or it can also be it can save you from a lot of problems in the future.
And I don't mean to scare anybody, but your insurance carrier for your auto policy does have access to that. See how fast you're driving.
Live 360.
I just made that up, but it sounded
good. I was like, oh man. They do ask it for like rates, hey, can we put a GPS on your car? No, it's not a good idea. I'll pay the extra 10%. Thank you. But yeah, that's funny. All right.
Oh. Man, we're already 45 minutes into this.
Yeah, pretty wild.
This is a lot of good information.
Absolutely. All right, so I guess we're going to shut it down. How about that?
Yeah, wrap it up. You got any Any tidbits on news or anything?
You know, I'm just hoping that the interest rates go down the way they say they're going to go down. And they said the last time I checked, they should be going down in February. So I'm hoping they kind of inch their way down. And then the last thing I heard was by summer, I think it was, they're going to be in the mid fives. So that'd be awesome. So I'm just hoping that it goes the way they say it's going to go. Let's put it that way. So, but that's about the biggest news I got so far when it comes to the interest rate, and keeping my fingers crossed. Let's put it that way. And another thing that I strongly suggest everybody to do is check out the new Texas A&M newsletter. We all get it, and I strongly suggest you go take a look at that. I just got it in the mail the other day, and I was reading through it. It's got some really good articles in there about economic forecasts, and the economic forecasts were kind of give you an idea. Retail has gone up, multifamily has gone down, land values have gone down, housing kind of started to make a slight downward turn again. So going into the new year, I always like to check to see what economic forecasts are to kind of see where we start. But I'll be honest, I don't know if that's going to happen or it's not going to happen. But it's good to at least get an idea of what the forecast is and what we can maybe expect. So that's Texas A&M, and it's a newsletter. Or you can also go out to the www.tamu.edu, and you can actually, that's exactly where Jeff is right there. And you can go to the research center, and you can find out, then click on newsletter, and you can find out that information as well. So it's actually pretty cool to, you can find market data, find home price indexes, rental, rural land. You can find a lot of information about a lot of different things. So I always encourage everybody to go out to that website. And they're not always 100% correct, but at least they give us a pretty good forecast of what to look for. So it's a pretty good little website.
Yeah. Good one.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, we know the drill. If you ever want to call in, come on live, 940-230-2899. We love questions, and we've been getting a lot of questions over the last week. That was good. You can always email us at realestateramble@gmail.com, and we'd be more than happy to put your questions, or, hey, call in and ask them. That would even be better, right? Go live on it. So, either way, it's up to you what you want to do. But, we got many ways to get a hold of us. And if you have anybody that you want to spotlight, again, we'll send them. Remember, we sent a package out. We sent them a nice little gift for being the spotlight last week. We appreciate that. And of course, if you have any maybe vendors or somebody that's interested and want to be spotlighted on the show, we're more than happy to invite them as well. So I appreciate everybody. Jeff, you got any last words?
Nope, you got it covered. Good job.
Yeah. All right.
Good show.
All right, absolutely. All right, so I think there was there a couple questions that popped up, or?
Well, actually, I had made a comment about the tires. I thought Debbie Lynn was talking about tires, but she was talking about additional earnest money. Only one in 18 years. So, yeah.
Yeah, see, it's not very common. Yeah. So I was gonna say one flat tire in 18 years. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I've even ran out of gas 100 times. All right. All right. So good deal. Not trying to have them. Yeah, cool. I was going to say I get a lot of those. Cracked windshields seem to be a good one too. So, All right. So again, thank you everybody for joining the show. Thank you for participating, everyone. Great questions. Hope we got everything answered for you. Again, 940-230-2899, or email us, realestateramble@gmail.com. Appreciate everybody. And Jeff, you got any final words?
That's it. Thank you, sir.
That's it. All right. Thank you guys very much. Have a great night. Stay safe. See you next week.